How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, March 10th, 2022. I am James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Justin Herbert. The elite young starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers turns 24 today, and my intention with this episode, of course, is to focus in on Justin Herbert's career from the moment that he stepped foot on a football field with Oregon, and even slightly before, to where he is now, as he's established himself as one of the NFL's best young passers in the game. I'm going to zoom in and look at how he's been able to impact his teams on a micro level, looking at how he's been able to go game in, game out, maintain a level of consistency that would put him on this level of elite quarterbacks when you have thousands of quarterbacks that are competing for, 32 starting NFL spots at the same time. I'm also going to zoom out and look at how he's been able to impact the game from a macro level to how he's been able to impact the culture with the Los Angeles Chargers organization and just how his game has impacted the NFL as a whole. And if you're not familiar with Justin Herbert, he stands at about 6'6", 236 pounds. He's very tall. He's a very electric quarterback who knows how to get the ball down the field. And considering he's very young and he's already shown the league that it can do so much with so many years ahead of him, I am one of the many NFL fans that cannot wait to see what Justin Herbert can do, at least with the rest of his career. But at least here's what he's done until now. Originally from Eugene, Oregon, he would go on to play high school basketball, football, and baseball in Oregon. After being recognized as one of the top athletes in the state, he would go on to play college football at the University of Oregon. His true freshman season would see him start off the year as QB2. He would go on to be the first true freshman to start at quarterback during his freshman season as he earned the spot. He would go on to eventually go on to play 8 games in his freshman year in 2016 season, which of course to this day is going down as his age 18 season. And in his age 18 season, he played 8 games in a season where the Oregon Ducks under Mark Helfreich would finish with a 4-8 record as they would miss the tournament altogether. In the 8 games he played, he would go on to complete about 63% of his passes. He threw for 1,936 total yards. He would throw for 19 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He also had 161 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. He would go on to finish with over 2,000 yards of offense, of over almost 2,100 total yards of offense, as he would go on to finish with 21 touchdowns on the year, as Oregon would still not have a winning record. But Justin Herbert would, of course, get a little bit of recognition for being one of the best young quarterbacks, and at least for being a historic starting freshman quarterback at the University of Oregon, considering it hadn't been done since the 1980s. Following his freshman season, he, of course, would come back for his sophomore season under their new head coach at the time, Willie Taggart. And with Willie Taggart as their head coach, Justin Herbert will go on to start 8 games for an Oregon team that will go on to finish the 2017 season with a 7-6 record. They will go all the way to a bowl game in Willie Taggart's lone season as the head coach. They will go all the way to the Las Vegas Bowl, where they would lose to Boise State by 10 points. In the 8 games he played in, Justin Herbert would see himself complete 67% of his passes, and this being, of course, in his age 19 season. He would go on, like I said, in the same amount of games as the year before, in 50 less passes completed. He would still throw for like 50 more yards. He threw for 15 touchdowns alongside 5 interceptions. He would finish with his career high in rushing yards and touchdowns, as he had 183 rushing yards alongside 5 touchdowns. He would go on to finish with nearly 2,200 total yards of offense alongside his 20 touchdowns, as this time Oregon would at least make it to a bowl game. After 2017, Justin Herbert will be named an academic All-American for the year. Coming back for his third year with the Oregon program in his age 20 season in 2018. He would go on to play his first full season as the starting quarterback as he started 13 games in a season where the Oregon Ducks would finish with a 9-4 record. They would not finish as a ranked team. However, they would make it to the Red Box Bowl where they would end up beating Michigan 7-6 in that bowl game. In Justin Herbert's first full season as a starter, he would go on to complete 59.4% of his passes as he threw for 3,151 yards. The first year he threw for over 3,000 yards. He would throw for 29 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, the most interceptions he would have in a season. He would also run for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would go on to finish with over 3,300 total yards of offense, and he had over 30 touchdowns in a season for the very first time in his career, as Oregon would just see themselves falling right outside the rankings. In 2018, he would go on to be named an academic All-American, and he would go on to be named to the Football Academic All-America Team of the Year. So, of course, he was, performing well in the classroom and doing well on the football field as well. He was named to the first team academic team. He would go on to be, like I said, he would be second in the Pac-12 in touchdowns this year after Gardner Minshew. But this would transition into Justin Herbert's senior season at Oregon, and in his age 21 season with the team, he would go on to start all 14 of the games he played in a season where Oregon would finish with a 12-2 record. This would be the lone season in his 4 years there that they would finish as a ranked team. They would finish as the 5th ranked team in the nation as they would end up winning the Rose Bowl game against Wisconsin. In Justin Herbert's last season in college, he will go on to complete 66.8% of his passes as he threw a career high 428 attempts. So, of course, he would throw the most passes and complete a very high percentage of those passes. He would go on to throw for 3,471 yards, the most yards he would put together in his collegiate career. He threw for 32 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. He also ran for 50 yards, so that's over 3,500 total yards of offense. That's the most yards he's ever had in a season total. His 4 rushing touchdowns would add up to 36 total touchdowns on the year. That would be the most touchdowns that Justin Herbert would put together in a year. And as Oregon would finish their year as a top 5 team, Justin Herbert would be named an academic All-American for the 3rd year in a row. He, of course, would be given the William V. Campbell Trophy, which is also known as the Academic Heisman for the year. He would be named to the Academic All-America Team of the Year again. And not to mention, he would be named the Rose Bowl Offensive MVP, as in that Rose Bowl game itself, Justin Herbert would go on to throw for 138 yards on the game. Not to mention that he would also be the Senior Bowl MVP in 2020. So he would establish himself as a really good prospect going into the 2020 draft after his senior year. In the 2020 draft, he would end up being the 6th overall pick in the 3rd overall quarterback taken in a draft that would see Joe Burrow out of LSU be drafted by the Bengals 1st overall. This is the draft that saw Chase Young be taken by the Washington Redskins at the time with the 2nd overall pick. Herbert was the 3rd quarterback taken as Tua Tagovailoa was drafted by the Miami Dolphins out of Alabama, the pick right before him. Looking also at the other Pro Bowlers in this draft, CeeDee Lamb was taken with the 17th overall pick by the Cowboys out of Oklahoma. With the 13th overall pick in this draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. The Vikings took Justin Jefferson out of LSU with the 22nd overall pick, just to give you a sense of the players he was coming out with. But ever since Justin Herbert was drafted with the 6th overall pick in the 2020 NFL draft by the Los Angeles Chargers, he has, of course, been the starting quarterback for that team. After being the 3rd quarterback taken in the 2020 NFL draft, he will go on to be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year following his very first season with the Los Angeles Chargers. In his age 22 season, his rookie season with the Chargers, he would start all 15 of the games he played in a season where the Los Angeles Chargers would finish with a 7-9 record. They had a 6-9 record, as Justin Herbert himself was the starting quarterback. In those 15 games he played, he would complete 66.6% of his passes, which is out of his 2 seasons, the better of his 2 seasons that he's had so far. He would go on to he would throw for 4,336 yards. He would go on to rush for 234 yards. So that would go on to combine for almost 4,600 total yards of offense. He would throw for 31 touchdowns as he would go on to rush for 5 himself. His 36 total touchdowns are the second most, or are the lesser of the 2 seasons that he's had, but 36 total touchdowns in 15 games is an incredible feat to do, especially in his rookie season. He would go on to finish with 10 interceptions on the year. He would go on to finish as the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year following that amazing season, as the Los Angeles Chargers would see themselves miss the playoffs. The Chargers have not made the playoffs since 2018 as a franchise, since Anthony Lynn was coach, and Justin Herbert's first season would be Anthony Lynn's 4th and final season as the LA Chargers head coach. Following his first full season with the Chargers that would see him win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Justin Herbert would return for his second full season with the team, this most recent season, his age 23 season, which would be the 2021 NFL season. In the first season that the NFL would see teams play 17 games instead of 16. Justin Herbert would start all 17 of the games he played in a season where the Chargers would finish with a 9-8 record. They finished with the 3rd best record in the AFC West, as they had 2 more wins in the previous year and 1 more game played in Brandon Staley's first season as the coach. They would miss the playoffs yet again, as Justin Herbert still has yet to play an NFL playoff game. He would go on to complete 65.9% of his passes, making it the 2nd year in a row he's completed at least 65% of his passes, which is a tough feat to repeat. He would go on to throw for 5,014 yards this season. He and Tom Brady were the only 2 quarterbacks this year to throw for over 5,000 yards. On the ground, he would go on to run for 302 yards, which is also the most rushing yards he's had in a season. His 5,300 total yards, of course, are the most that he's had in a season to date. He would go on to throw for 38 touchdowns, as he would also run for 3 touchdowns himself. This would be the lone season to date in his career that he's eclipsed 40 touchdowns, as he had 41 touchdowns last year. He had 15 interceptions, which is so far the most interceptions that he's had in a season. This will be the 2nd consecutive season he's had at least 35 touchdowns and at least 10 interceptions combined to his name. And in just his 2nd season, he would go on to make the Pro Bowl for the very first time in his career, which is a very tough feat to do, especially as a quarterback, especially in a league with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, who were the other 2 quarterbacks to make the Pro Bowl, as he made it over Josh Allen and other names. But right now, that is how Justin Herbert's career is, of course, stacking up till right now. He also holds NFL records for the most passing touchdowns by a rookie quarterback, as he threw 31. He holds the NFL record for the most passing yards per game by a rookie, as he threw for 289 yards a game as a rookie. He would go on to he threw 8 300-yard passing games as a rookie, which is also an NFL record, and he also has the most completions by a rookie quarterback in the NFL, as Justin Herbert has come through the NFL as quite arguably one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive, rookie quarterback that the NFL has ever seen. And even to build off of that, he would go on to make his very first Pro Bowl. So with the momentum that Justin Herbert has, I cannot wait to see what he does, considering he's a player that hasn't even made the playoffs yet. I do think that Justin Herbert is a very impactful player, and once his team is built to make those playoff runs, I cannot wait to see what he does. With that said, I do want to thank the College and Pro Football Reference websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed for this episode, and I also want to thank everyone for listening to all 15 minutes of this piece. If you ever get a chance to watch Justin Herbert, I would recommend watching him. He currently wears number 10 for the LA Chargers. And with that said, thanks for listening. I do hope all is well. And once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Friday, March 11th for another episode. And hopefully by this time next year on March 10th, 2023, hopefully Justin Herbert will have a whole nother season of NFL play under his belt. And I can't wait to see what he does within that time. Thanks for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow. Peace out.